Good morning. Okay. Morning, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me, please. Some indication. That would be nice. Where art thou? All right. I'll see you guys. Morning. So, you know the drill. We've got um, we've got us a few minutes before 10. So there's a lot to unpack before today's sermon. A lot to unpack. During the course of the past week, a great man passed on. I speak of no other than Chief Dele at born on April 10, 1928, departed to be with the Lord, his maker, on Lover's Day. And he was a lover man. He had a lot of love for everybody. May God rest his soul. Oh, you know how it is. Usually, before we'll go into the sermon every morning, we'll spend the little time we have together picking on random issues to speak to. But today, I find that I'd rather speak about my friend, my father, my leader, mentor, Chivayo Adebanjo. And I'll speak of him this morning because we're all travelers through time. And whilst we imagine that we would live forever, we really can't, because at some point we would all have to get on board that plane that Baba was always talking about. He was fond of telling us that he'd been in the departure lounge for a while, holding his boarding pass. Well, finally, Baba got to board his flight, as we all shall in due course. It is the way of the flesh that every man that is born must die. Baba was 96, and until the last few months of his life, he was a sprightly man. He walked unaided, largely. His memory was much better than mine, superior to mine. Baba will recall dates and names going back 60, 70 years. Dates with actual names. And he affirmed something I'd always known. The truth teller has no need for a good memory. The reason being that if you don't know, you simply say you don't know. And if you know, it simply flows from your stream of consciousness, because the truth is the truth is the truth. Chivayo Adebanjo embodied the truth. He exemplified it. He lived it. Baba never held a political office in his life, but he was a politician throughout his life. He held party offices. He was organizing secretary. He helped to build the action group. He helped to found the Unity Party of Nigeria, the Reborn Action Group. He helped to birth the Alliance for Democracy, another child of the same action group. Papa never wavered. He wasn't one to crisscross. He never accepted political office. He never ran for political office. He was a party man, party organizer, an ideologue, a believer. That's why you'd find him all through his life quoting Awolowo. He believed. He believed. He was a fervent believer. And Baba spoke and lived his conviction. He walked his talk. You know what Baba told the Abacha goons at the peak of Abacha's madness? Not unlike the kind of insanity we have and call democracy today. Baba told them, "You owe me only one bullet." One. That was the man who eventually lived to be 96. Think about it. Abacha was 26, 27 years ago. Abacha died, I believe, 97, was it 98? Yeah, 98. Think about it. Papa stared them down. Some people ran into exile. They never went anywhere. In the First Republic, Papa went to prison. He would even joke and tell you that his own imprisonment was international and borderless because his own imprisonment was in Ghana. The treasonable felony trials. Papa was part and parcel of that. He lived Nigeria's history. He was there, a participant, but one who participated with truth and never sought reward for himself. Never. Not for himself, not for his children. That was Chief Ayo Adebanjo. The pantheon of Nigeria's heroes is practically empty. Men who should have built a nation opted to build personal wealth. They built monuments to greed. Largely gone now, mostly forgotten. But Chivayo Adebanjo would live long in the memories of not just those of us who are alive today, but when the time comes for the story of Nigeria to be told, if it is ever told, and it will be told, whether that be the story of his birth or the story of his stillbirth or his murder by those pretending to birth it or to pretend it today, there would be chapters and tomes written about Chivayo Adebanjo and the roles that he had played to keep this country not only one, but an equitable one. History will be most kind to Chivayo Adebanjo. Nigeria is not a country blessed with statesmen, but I assure you that if the day comes and statesmanship is somehow equitably ascribed to those who have been victimized by Nigeria, Chivayo Adebanjo will be immortal and he will be remembered. Good morning, everybody. It is 10 o'clock now. I really reckon we should get on to the sermon of the day. I spent the earlier part before you latecomers came into service speaking of Chivayo Adebanjo, who went to be with the Lord on Lover's Day. I will not repeat myself. I urge you to please find the time to go through that. But it did inspire this morning's topic. I went to see him on Monday. I then traveled to Ekiti on Tuesday. I came back to Lagos on Thursday and I called his aide on Friday morning with the intention of seeing him, only to learn of his passage that morning, on Friday morning. Now, usually I would give my assistant the topic for my sermon by Thursday. Sometime even like last week, for instance, I even gave you the topic of last week's sermon by the time I was done the upper week. But this week, because of everything that had happened, the Ekiti adventures, coming back on Friday to now, I was just generally unsettled. Unsettled not in the sense that you can't claim that a 96-year-old man died suddenly or that the wicked have done their worst. And Baba's demise had been expected at least for some weeks now because he hadn't enjoyed good health. However, I was thrown into a quandary largely because I just couldn't figure out how to perhaps marshal my thoughts and focus on delivering something that would move us beyond moaning about our conditions to acting to take off that yoke. So these days, I've had this struggle with my topic because I don't want to lament. I'm tired with lamenting. But long story cut short, by Saturday afternoon, I realized that there is a recurrent decimal, especially when I contemplate or have contemplated departed friends or the truth. I found out very quickly that in contemplating Chivayo Adebanjo's death, I couldn't help but come to the conclusion that he had achieved immortality in certain areas of his life by the very example of the life that he lived. And the only reason he had achieved this seeming immortality, in my own view, and you can't say that I am highly biased because I loved him a lot. All right, so it's possible I am biased. But for me, what was logged in the aspect of immortality that I perceived after his passage as I contemplated his death are the truthful ideals by which he lived and defined his life. I realized that it is almost impossible to live by truthful ideals in a space where those truthful ideals are not convenient. It is impossible to live by them and not become somewhat immortal. Don't worry, Papa just died a couple of days ago, so it might take the benefit of hindsight for all of you to come to the knowledge of the fact of his immortality. But let me help you. Before Baba, there was Fela and Nicola Kokuti. And don't worry, Baba sang no song. I'm not suggesting that he has songs that would outlive him. But was it songs that has rendered Fela prophetic, quote and unquote, because you lot love calling him prophetic these days? Was it the songs? No. Any fool can sing. Any genius can invent a new genre of music. But it takes the truth to render music timeless and immortal, or the person who bears the music timeless or immortal. Here is what I'm saying. Fela, every one of Fela's songs, or let me not overgeneralize, 95% or more of Fela's songs are about the Nigerian condition. He would speak specifically, is it water lighty, food house, water lighty, food house, waiting to them. Now, that song is at least, at a minimum, 30 years old. Let me say 35 to 40 years old. But the Nigerian condition has not changed because of the refusal of Nigeria to change. Fela's music, the truth contained in the music, has outlived Fela. And because we have to find a way to explain our refusal or inability to change, we have to explain Fela's timeless truths as prophecies, as though Fela were to be talking about something in futurum, something that will happen in the future. Fela, yes, spoke to things that will happen in the future in the realm of 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. But largely, what Fela was doing was that he was describing the objective realities of his time, the Nigerian condition in his time. Those were the preoccupations of Fela's music. So Fela could sing about, he could sing about people standing in Mo Lewis, and the situation remains the same. He could sing about custom checkpoints, and the custom checkpoints are still there. He could sing about police brutality, the impunity of the military. He could sing about authority stealing. Everything that Fela sang about were things that were happening in his space on a day-to-day basis. He was not speaking to something that was going to happen in the future. But because we have refused to change, both as a collective, as a society, nothing about us has changed. Do you understand? Nothing about us has changed since Fela sang those songs 40, 50 years ago. Nothing has changed. And because nothing has changed, we're still where we are. Fela sang about underground system. He sang music against second slavery. That is why Fela is immortal. He told the truth. You think anybody is going to remember Iskelebe, Iskalaba, Iskelebe? What's the meaning of Iskelebe, Iskalaba? What does that mean? Exactly what relevance does that have to the society in which the musician, and that's stretching the meaning, lives? What does that mean? The same fella had songs that you could simply dance to for the sake of music. You think he doesn't? Go listen to the Kula Lobito songs. Go listen to them. Onkpeko Shayawa, Olohun Shaya, Fela sang those songs once upon a time. Funky Ons, Onidodo, Onimoimoi. But you don't remember him for those. You remember him for the truths that he told. That's just the truth. Look at Gani Fawemi. Gani made a third class in the university, I'm told. Nobody remembers him for academic brilliance. But Gani immortalized himself by the truth behind which is truth. And because he told the truth unapologetically, he lived the truth unapologetically. He suffered for the truth without flinching. He's immortal today. But the key thing that immortalized him are the truths behind which is truth. The truth. That is what immortalizes you. The truth. Live the truth. Stand by the truth. Fight with the truth. Defend yourself with the truth. It immortalizes you. Abba, even the one that comes in Aso Rock today is a beneficiary of Ao's legacy. And even he pretty much said the same in his tribute to Chief Adebanjo. A lot of people who call themselves Aoists, but what does it mean to be an Aoist? Exactly what does it mean? Egalitarianism. You want the same thing for yourself that you want for the next man. That was the truth that defined his life. And that is why men run after themselves today, wanting to claim to be a member of the Awolowo political family. What does it mean? It's the truth. The truth by which the man defined his life. It is these truths that rendered the man immortal. If you live by truthful ideals, the best thing that can even happen to you is that you die for those truthful ideals. Because in your death, you gain martyrdom and you become immortal. Simply because you died for truthful ideals or you lived for truthful ideals. If Awolowo died what? 30 something years ago? He's long dead. But today, the name resonates. Even though largely bastardized by those who have been inheritors of his mantle. But Chief Awolowo's name remains today because of the truths, the truthful ideals, principles by which he led, that he professed, by which he lived. What are the ideals by which you are living today? I travel too far when I go into history and I'm talking about persons like Fela. I wasn't close to him. I was merely somebody who went to the shrine, listened to his music, appropriated him like almost all of us have done, but it does not change the fact that he wasn't somebody I knew at a personal level. I also didn't know Gani personally. I met him a couple of times. His nephew is one of my very best friends, Taiwo Akinlami. Was it during my presidency of the student union in LASU that we made him the life patron of the student union? Fantastic human being, but I cannot claim any kind of kinship or deep relationship. But there was another guy, now long gone. When I say long, less than a year. But that's time. He was my friend, Adeshina Ademola Ogunlana. Don't worry. Those of you who are involved with NSAS, the Lagos panel, you cannot talk about that panel without remembering Ademola Adeshina Ogunlana. The selfless sacrifices I should say, that he made alongside Ayo Ademiluyi of Ramimba, fighting to ensure that justice was given to the victims and survivors of the Lekki massacre. He slept in offices, mind and ease. He slept in safe houses, taking depositions. Long before then, he fought the Ambode toxic tenement rate, the land use charge. He fought all through his life. He lived selflessly and he lived truthfully. In spite of the machinations of evil men to tarnish his reputation and his image, Ogunlana lived truthfully. And it was at his death that it became apparent, or maybe I should say at his 60th birthday, which ended up more or less like the funeral service that he witnessed. Several men and women got up to give testimony as to how he affected their lives. And Ogunlana himself said on the day that he felt like he had witnessed his own funeral. Ogunlano died 10 days later. But you know what hasn't died? His memory. Ogunlano left behind a body of work that touched men and women. And I found that almost on a daily basis as I would go through my Facebook memories, I'll find something that I shared with Ogunlano at one point or the other over the course of the years of our relationship. I knew him for well over 30 years. And as I began to contemplate all these things, it became more and more apparent to me that the only time when we men touch on immortality is when we either tell the truth or we live by truthful ideals, declare the truth, or become ingrained and associated with the truth. It is these truths that renders us immortal in the passage of time. You think I don't know what I'm saying? Let me share this with you. If you go into the Bible, don't worry, we've called this church already now, she? Oh, yeah. Check your Bible. John chapter 14, verse 6. Bible is very specific. It says, I am the way. But then it goes on. The truth. God calls himself the truth. That is what he says in the Bible. And don't take my word for it. Go into the Quran. Go to Quran chapter 20, as verse 114. It says, is the supremely exalted. Supremely exalted then is Allah, the King, the truth, Al-Haq. Quran 22, verse 6. He says, that is because Allah is the truth. Now, what's the purpose of establishing this for you? Oh, yeah, that was church. Now it's mosque. So when you are done paying your tithe and offering, you can also bring something for the imam. I'm not only a pastor, I'm an imam as well. So you bring both. But the important thing is this: you cannot dissociate the truth from God. God is the truth, and the truth is God. When you tell the truth, you are living up to your office as a God, because you have all the attributes of God except the capacity to live in eternity in your physical body. So understand that every time you speak the truth, whether that be in music, whether that be in written words, whether that be in your everyday life, in your communications with others, you are playing God. You are living in your office as God. You are a part of God's creation. And you cannot, it is only the times when you are telling the truth, that is when you are playing God. That is when you are cementing your capacity for immortality. The only thing that will remain after we are all gone are the truths that we have told, because truths do not perish. There is nothing about the truth that is subjective. You cannot subjectify and then still label that thing the truth. So, the immortality of truth demands that we understand that you cannot separate the truth from God. The truth exists in all times, in all conditions, in all situations. White is white unless you dye it some other color. The white might be stained, but it's still white. You may have to recognize the fact that the stain exists on it, but it does not change the fact that it remains white. There is nothing about truth that should be subjectified. Truth is objective. If your objectivity is colored by certain levels of hypocrisy, that is another ballgame entirely. But it is in you adhering strictly to truthful ideals that you flirt with immortality. Look, the thing about the truth is that it establishes order. That is just the reality. You don't believe me? Come with me. Let's go check the Quran together again. We're in Moshalashi this morning. Don't forget to. So it's Quran 23:71. What does it say? It says, and if the truth follows their desires, the heavens and the earth, and all the people, all those who are therein would perish. This thing is simple. Systems run according to certain laws. Laws must be certain. When they say something must be certain, it means it must not move left or right. It must be constant. So if it must be constant, it means that it must be truthful. It must be, you must have tested it. It must be that 2 plus 2, the 2 plus 2 must always equal 4. That is why you say it must be certain. So if it must be certain, it means that it must not bend regardless of who is involved. That is the point where subjectivity negates the capacity to tell the truth. So if it is truthful in relation to Mr. A, it must be truthful in relation to Mr. B, it must be truthful in relation to Mr. X. That is the certainty of the law. And that is what the Quran is speaking to. Hear it and hear it clearly. It says, and if the truth follows their desires, if the truth follows their desire, the heaven and the earth and all those who are therein would perish. If you have to change the truth to follow the desires of those who rule, what happens inevitably is that you would have chaos and perversion, the sort that governs our country today. Nigeria is governed by lies. So it has meant that to a very large extent, instead of having order, we have chaos because we are not governed by the truth. And anything that is not governed by the truth will ultimately be destroyed. So, where is Nigeria going if it is not governed by truthful ideals, the immortal truth, the decadent lie? Nigeria is dying because it is governed by lies. These are the painful realities that we must tell ourselves. If you go into Quran at 7, that's the 7th chapter, verse 159, and it says, and of Moses' people is a party who guide with truth, and with it they do justice. Emphasis mind, justice. And of Moses' people is a party who guide with truth, and with it they do justice. Speaks to the Levites. That is what the Quran is referencing here. Of Moses' people, that's the Jews, is a party who guide with truth. That in reality, for us, is the judicial class, those who dispense justice. Are they guiding with truth? And are they able to do justice if they are guided with truth? If you look particularly at Surah Al-Munafiqun, verses 1 to 11, you will see all the 4 attributes of Nigerian ruiners. 1, they are inconsistent. They say something in the morning, it changes by noon, it changes by midday, it's gone again. Once upon a time, subsidy was bad, now it's good, then it's bad, now it's gone. Munafikun. They pretend. That is what munafiks do. They pretend. You want one? Go and look at the short one that used to rule in Kaduna. There was nothing better than bulaba. In fact, it was the best thing since sliced bread. But today, he's singing another song, and we are all supposed to clap the way of the Munafikun. They blame. Buhari blamed Jonathan for 8 years. Bulaba is blaming Buhari for the last 2 years. It's always somebody else to be blamed. And then they are complacent. It is the way of the Munafikun to be complacent. Because now that they have successfully foisted their inconsistency, their pretense, and they blame somebody else, they can now enjoy in their complacency. So they can buy yachts whilst you starve. They can buy presidential jets whilst you drop dead on the streets. They can remove fuel subsidy and live in the lap of luxury. You don't matter. That is the way of the Munafikun. Let us tell ourselves the truth. When I say the truth, I'll say the truth the way we used to say the truth long before the white man and the Arabs darkened our shores. As a Yoruba man, in my culture, you have three options when the truth comes. When you are asked, is it that Benny? That is when they say Soju Abeniko. That is either yes, or you say Beko, which is no, or you say Ironi. Benny speaks to you affirming what you know to be the truth, standing behind what you know to be the truth, not what you feel, what you know experientially. You witnessed it. If you heard somebody else if somebody else told you, you must say, oh, Lagbaja and Lagbaja told me, and I believe the person. You don't even need to say you believe the person sometimes, depending on who the person is, if it requires reaffirmation within the society. If you say Beko, it means that you're saying, I am not sure. I can't speak to the truth of that thing. In fact, it is not true. But when you say irony, you are affirming that that thing is a lie. Each and every one of the persons who have achieved immortality on account of truth telling, whether they be whites or black, Africans or Caucasian, or whatever their race might be, they would have to at some point decide to live by the truth. And if they must die by the truth, they stand behind that truth. They stand behind the truth in the knowledge that you cannot separate the truth from God. God is the truth. The immortal nature of the truth is that it cannot die. Yorubas have this proverb, and I'll close with that. They say, tí irọ́ bá lọ lógún ọdún, ìṣẹ́jú kan ló tán bá. What that means is, if the lie travels for 20 years, it takes the truth but a second to catch up with it. I've said this before. If you've been listening to me for some time, you would have heard me exegese this proverb. Nothing can be farther from the truth. The truth never moves. That is the constance of the truth. It does not move. Remember what the Quran said at chapter 23, verse 71, where it says that if the truth should follow their desires, the heaven and the earth and all those who live there, they will perish. That is exactly what the Yoruba proverb is also saying. The truth is fixed. It does not move. It is certain. It is the lie that travels. It's peripatetic. It goes up and down, yo and yo, but the truth remains sat in the same place, constant as the northern star. And then when the lie is done perambulating, it comes back to where the truth is sat. Remember Fela's song? Perambulator, 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 later, perambulator. They go, they perambulate on the city, same place, because they continue to lie. They continue to travel and dance around, not acknowledging the truths that are obvious. One of the defining truths told by Chivayo Adebanjo in his lifetime is the fact that Nigeria will not progress unless it goes back to true federalism. Federalism, I should say, don't let me help them perpetuate that lie of true federalism. There's nothing called true federalism. That one is a lie. Federalism based on regions. Chivayo Adebanjo defined a struggle by these ideals. That was the man who has grasped at immortality simply because he told the truth. Dare to tell the truth. Do not be as the monarchic queen. Do not join them. We've got only one home. One. And if we are ever to come out of this mess that we are in, it will be because we stood by the truth and insist that only the truth shall prevail in our country. I just came back this morning. My entire purpose was to talk to you about the immortal truth, but more importantly, to help you to understand that you can gain immortality. Your spirit is already immortal. Your soul is immortal, I should say. You can gain immortality yourself in the consciousness of men if you live by truthful ideals, because the truth, by its nature of being God, is immortal, and the truth you live by that defines the life you live might render you immortal. Dare to speak the truth. That brings us to the end of today's sermon. Now, let me just make a quick clarification as I bring this to an end. I was never gagged by the magistrate in Ekiti. He simply asked that I shouldn't speak about the case that was in his court. My silence is a function of choice. At the appropriate time, I will act. Action speaks louder than words. Have you a blessed week ahead. God bless you all. Amen.